Chương trình này được bảo trợ bởi
Family Joy, tổ ấm y tế của mọi gia đình, 714 898 0765.
Hi, welcome back to the OC Health and Education Show on Little Saigon TV. I'm your host, Julie Yip. Today, we have a great opportunity to talk to Greg Johnson, an attorney who specializes in living will and trust. We have a great opportunity to talk to him to learn about who he is and his journey to being to where he is right now. Before the commercial break, we learned that he went back to school at the age of 50 during retirement and now dedicating his life and a career to the community to help people prepare for their families and as you know, we transition, and also to make sure that we preserve our legacy. Julie, kính chào quý vị khán giả của Little Saigon TV trong chương trình Kiến thức, y khoa, gia đình và xã hội. Hôm nay Julie có thời gian nói chuyện với anh Greg Johnson. Anh Greg Johnson là một người luật sư mà không phải là cái trial luật sư, mà cái luật sư mà giúp cho gia đình luôn luôn làm giấy tờ mà quan trọng. Hôm nay chúng tôi sẽ nói về làm cái living will and trust. Greg, thank you so much for coming on to our show today. I feel so blessed to have an opportunity to really sit down with you, to know about your journey, and know you more than just that handshake we see in the community and the passerby we say hi and bye. But this is a great opportunity. During this year or the year and a half has been very challenging for our community, specifically with the pandemic, loss of lives and businesses and livelihood. And, I think it's such an important topic for us to talk about today. Why do you think it's so important to have a will in place or having a living trust, especially during the pandemic?
Well, the pandemic has been a hugely traumatic event for people.
Yes.
And my business helps people prepare for something that's really unpleasant. And when we first had the pandemic begin about a year and a half ago, the community was in shock.
Yes.
And people were very much afraid. And they were locked in and they were locked down and they were very, 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 very afraid. The nature of my work is that I get to know people a little bit, and that's part of the beauty and the pleasure of the work. And so I get to help them. And when they started to become more relaxed and more able to prepare themselves and for their families, then they were more able to get out and come and talk to me, and we could help them. The living trust is something that they don't do for themselves. It's a very selfless thing to do. They really do it. They do it for their children. It's one of those gifts that a parent just continues to give. Parents give lots of gifts to their kids.
Yes.
And this is one. And they spend a bit of money to do it. And they really don't get anything out of it except for a little quiet satisfaction that their children, when the time comes, and it'll be a difficult time, the children will have one less thing to worry about. They won't have to go out and hire a lawyer. They won't have to go to probate court. They won't have to go through a lot of stuff. Mm-hmm. They will have enough things to deal with then. And so COVID has made people begin to think at a younger age.
Yes, yes.
About that. Now I have people in their 30s who have small children. When I started the business about 10 years ago here in Little Saigon, most of my clients were older with grown children.
Yes.
And so COVID has changed. And I think that the feeling of the time will come has made it something that people think about more. Yeah. And my job is to try and help them with an unpleasant subject and make it easy for them, as easy as possible.
One thing that you said that I'm kind of hanging on to was that you said that parents give to their kids all the time. And this living trust is basically the gift at the end. You know,
it's a gift that the kids don't even know about when the parents are doing it.
Wow, that's amazing.
And it's very selfless.
Yeah. You know, I appreciate you being so genuine and so emotional with us, because, you know, these conversations are so hard to have. You know, and I mean, I know before the commercial break and during that, you know, you got to learn about me, and you know, I do what I do in the community because I lost my mom. You know, and when you lose a loved one, there's so many things that you worry about, and you know, thinking about a living trust and things like that is the parents is just kind of like making it more tolerable and making it more bearable. You know, so I thank you, Greg, for sharing that with us.
Sure.
Thưa quý vị khán giả, hôm nay Julie có thời gian nói chuyện với Greg Johnson. Greg Johnson là một luật sư rất là thương mến trong cộng đồng Việt Nam của mình trong 10 năm đây. Greg rất là xúc động. Hôm nay là lý do đó là tại lúc mà Greg nói chuyện với mình là Greg nhắc nhở quý vị là mình, cái người phụ huynh, cái người cha mẹ luôn luôn thương con mình. Trong cuộc đời của con mình luôn luôn mình có cái quà cho con mình. Mà nhiều người mà tới Greg là hỏi về cái Living Trust. Cái Living Trust là một cái quà mình tặng cho con mình lúc mà mình không còn đây nữa, mà mình cái tài sản của mình sắp xếp trước cho lúc mà mình không còn đây, con mình có nhiều cái lo lắng lắm. Thì Greg xúc động là một phần là tại Greg thấy đây là cái quà rất là quý, là cái quà mà cha mẹ rất thương con. Thì Julie cũng thấy cũng rất xúc động để cho có thời gian nói chuyện hôm nay. Greg, you know, I was trying to, you know, hold back emotions and tears, you know, because, you know, one thing that you mentioned, and that's when you got emotional, was that this is a gift. And it's a gift that your child might not even know about. But, you know, and I think, you know, when a family comes to you, you mentioned that they're getting younger, you know, because with COVID, it changes our mindset, and we don't know when our last day is. But I think what it also is, it's kind of a blessing in disguise, that I think more of us are learning to be more grateful.
Grateful, yes.
More of us are learning to live a little bit more.
I hope that the gratitude and being grateful for what you have is something that we will learn more during this experience and then carry with us into the future. Gratitude is very important.
It's huge. You know, I know we've been talking about the word living trust. Many of us heard the word will. Can you kind of explain the two so we can explain to our audience what this means?
Sure. Well, it goes back, being able to give property to your children goes back a long time in English history, and most of our law in America comes from England.
So you were mentioning that, you know, there's a will and a living trust, right? So again, what's the difference between the two?
Well, a will is a document that says what your will is, what your will is,
what you want
your
to
wish
do,
is,
your
what
wishes.
your desire is. I mean, the word will actually has a rather obvious meaning to it. It is what I wish, it's what I desire, it's what my will, my inner will would have if I could do it. And so it is often a piece of paper, and in California and most places it is witnessed by two people. In California, if the value of property is over $160,000, then a will has to go through probate court in order to be given effect. A living trust, on the other hand, is a little bit different, and it is notarized, and it does not have to go through probate court. So in the case of a house, in Orange County, obviously, everything is going to be worth a lot more than that. So if you put your property in a will, then your children have to go out and hire a lawyer and have the will go through probate court. The cost of probate is high.
What's the estimated cost?
Well, the statute provides for a cost of 4% for the first 100,000, 3% of the second 100,000, and 2% of each additional 100,000 up to $1 million. So on an $800,000 house, which is pretty average for
In
Orange County nowadays. The cost of probate is $19,000. And the cost of a will, it is the same price typically as to do a living trust. But the children have to end up spending, a lot of money in order to have the will probated.
Okay. Well, after the commercial break, I would definitely want to continue our conversation, Greg. Thưa quý vị khán giả của Little Saigon TV, hôm nay Julie có nói chuyện với Greg Johnson về cái Will and Living Trust. Sau vòng quảng cáo, chúng tôi sẽ nói chi tiết thêm. Cảm ơn quý vị.